But there are times where I'm just like, really, like, this is different. This feels like advancement. This feels like progress, not in the sense of like I said something, there's no quantifiable way for it. You could just feel it. Like I'm getting closer to just the most direct expression of what I'm trying to say.
Rob Ruckus,
Nick Collins,
Kate Clover,
Keith Semple,
Isaiah Mitchell,
Billy Harvey,
Tim Howard. Check it out, Almost Famous Magazine.
Hey there, welcome back to The Hang right here on Almost Famous Magazine. I'm your host, Scott Saldinger. Thank you to everyone for hanging with us and getting to know musicians and artists, telling their stories beyond their music worldwide. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and share. But if you've been with us before, you're coming back for something. What are you waiting for? Tell your friends about us. We really appreciate it. Also, if you'd rather not see this gorgeous face in every single episode, you can take The Hang with you anywhere you get your podcasts, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. As part of our Dollfest coverage, today on The Hang, we are joined by independent hip-hop trailblazer eras known as the artist DAMAG, a genre blending. I write these things and then I write them and I'm like, I got to say them. I'm an idiot. Okay. Artist rooted in Louisiana, but carving out a fierce and eclectic sound that blends gritty beats, soul, and internet age experimentation. From powerful anthems like Put a Landlord in a Landfill and Hunter Schaefer to her latest project, Blind, DAMAG defies easy categorization. I've listened to her. I can't figure it out. There's so much going on there, and I love it because it isn't generic, and then we're going to talk about that today. While using your music to connect deeply with fans and challenge the algorithm-driven industry. God, we talk about that a lot. Whether you're already riding with her growing community or discovering her for the first time, get ready for an unfiltered conversation with one of the most original voices in modern hip-hop. DAMAG. Welcome to The Hang. We'll figure it out as we go along. I'm glad to have you here.
What's happening?
Hey, how you?
Thanks for having me. That was quite an intro.
Thank you.
That was quite an intro.
I do my best. I try to put things together that are somewhat witty. And then what I don't realize is while I'm writing them, I've also got to say them. And that's like, how stupid could I be? I'm like, you should get this stuff down.
It's a fun humiliation ritual. I'm glad you put yourself through it.
You know what? I have no problem with humiliation because you know what? As far as I know, it's never killed anybody. And that's good with me. So I'm like, there are bigger ways to destroy yourself other than humiliation. So, and we fail more than we succeed. So
that's kind of the beauty of it, though. I think that's what makes success so powerful. Is how it I don't know. I've had a lot of like reflection on, I guess, like my relationship with failure and how it pertains to what I do here artistically. And I mean, you brought up like algorithmic industry stuff and how that impacts creativity and all that sort of shit. So ultimately, the fear is, I don't know, the fear is important. It's really important. Or I'm sorry, the failure is important.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we naturally fail more than we ever succeed, but we darn well better learn from our failures so we can create our success, and that's half the battle of being creative, right?
Yeah. No, it's weird because like I've been trying to internalize more of this, instead of the word fail, trying to, use the word like explore maybe more and try to, because for a whole myriad of parent related reasons, I have like really fucked up relationships with failure and with success. And I guess kind of just like the way in which I police myself. And the problem is when you put too much pressure on your being, you're not able to really tap into that upper echelon of your artistic ability. And so, it's something I've had to recently take a lot of agency in how like the flavor and the tint that I apply to those things. And even like today, I got frustrated doing this whole cable thing. For the people that were watching me on TikTok live, the original idea of what I was doing was like, okay, I have the new speakers. I'm going to run some new wires for them. But in the process, I'm also going to get XYZ like specific things that I wanted. Mainly surface area, furniture related. Turns out I don't own the furniture to make what I want happen. And there's no way for me to get it. And all that sort of thing. And so I had to like take a deep breath. I definitely hopped off the live because I was a little frustrated. I was like, you know what? I think the best thing I can do is let's get the speakers going because that's something I do have and I want to enjoy that part. And they're, the sky is not going to fucking fall, and I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I don't know. I feel like it doesn't take away the frustration. I think when you can blunt its effect and when you can allow it to like pass through you and just be like, damn, that is not what I set out to do. But you know what? Like, what else, what can we do? Because you can't just do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ability to accept that it doesn't turn out the exact way that you want it, but you can accept it and then see around the corners, so to say, to improve upon it or change it, to craft it to where you want to go, and having the patience necessary to do that is what ultimately breeds that success, right?
Yeah.
You have to there are some people who get kind of analysis paralysis in the it didn't get to where I wanted to go, and then they're never able to look around the corner to see what's behind it to get it out of the way to get there.
Yeah. I've been caught up in that for a minute, and it's not like I'm never like perpetually one thing or another thing. It's all waves and stuff. But it's something that depending on who's been around me over the past couple of years that I've been making music. Because we're on year 5 now, so we're making 5 years of really doing this, and depending so much of like what I've been able to do and the way, regardless of what, but how I feel about what I'm doing. I'm always hype on my music, but there are times where I'm just like really like this is different. This feels like advancement. This feels like progress, not in the sense of like I said something, there's no quantifiable way for it. You could just feel it, like I'm getting closer to just the most direct expression of what I'm trying to say, and it's not being filtered by all of this other shit. But depending on who's been around me, I've had some people that sometimes have been massive facilitators, and other times they've been enablers or creatively cockblocking, like whatever it is. It has been so contingent around the people around me. And one thing I'm very grateful for is this space that I very recently have. So a lot of the music that I've been making, which I've been making a lot more music, I don't know, it's starting to feel, it has kind of a different feel to it. But it's obviously still me. And this, I guess, kind of goes to what you were saying in terms of like easy categorization. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a rapper, like point blank period. I'm a hip hop artist, and I'm always going to be that. But what I love about hip hop is it is like it's such an expansive art form. Like the art of rapping is independent inherently from the genre of hip hop, because the genre of hip hop is so much more cultural and has its own kind of sonic aspects. But like as an art form, like it can integrate with fucking anything. And you can do like even just the attitude you approach a track with can bring the energy of another genre. But yeah, no, that's, well, I will ramble, so you have to shut me up if you need to say something.
Well, no, I mean, it's kind of funny because I think what I want to do, since you're in year five, that's 5. Okay. 4 fingers and a thumb. It's 5. I want to step back, right? We're going to talk about Dollfest in a little while, but first I want to talk about your relationship with music. Like, let's talk about your relationship origin story and how it got you to where you are through these 5 years and where you are today. And let's start with, did you find music or did music find you? What was that experience like? And then what have been some of those milestones over that time period that got you to where you are today? What's your story?
All right. I guess like the full story of it. I grew up in a home where there was music almost always being played. My mom would always be like, if it was a little too quiet, it was time to start making dinner, it was time to clean the house, whatever. She's like, someone put some music on. She'd have like, and they would have a couple DVDs. They had like Sade live. They had Metallica, S&M, like the Y2K symphony thing that they did. They had fucking Sublime live. They had Eminem live. They had like all these. Dude, did I say Sade? I think I did. They had like, I want to say about a dozen really cool live concert DVDs, like those full production of like A-list artists. And they love just like having that on in the background. And so I heard kind of like a multi-genre array of music. It's definitely very like mainstream music growing up, but it's also mainstream for a reason because it's some of the greatest stuff, like Chili Peppers. We love it. I then would consider myself activated for the first time in terms of I went from being like, oh, music is just a part of life. It's just like, I think part of what I have such a proclivity to it is because my parents always playing it around, and because my extended family, music was always a part of these functions and of daily life. I think I just internalize it as almost like if it's not playing, there's something wrong. But then when I was activated, I want to say I was about 7 years old, 7, 8, something like that. I remember it was over the summer. I was at a Barnes and Nobles with my dad, and we were getting, I think, like, the 3 books that I needed to read that year. And we used to start going to the library for them, and then we ended up just buying a copy so that my siblings could have them as well. And so we're getting the books, and then I guess we're walking out, and my dad sees the CDs. And we're just kind of poking through looking at CDs. And he sees a Master of Puppets album. And he's like, Metallica, Master of Puppets for anybody listening. And was like, kind of like looked at me and got like this giddy little look. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I had this when I was a kid. And I just, like, the original one is long gone. I don't know where it is. He's like, I got a treat for you. I'm like, okay. I'm like a 7-year-old kid. I'm like, okay. And so, at the time he had this convertible car. It was like a little hot shot thing he had for, I want to say like 3-4 years. Just, he got big boy money for the first time when I was young. And, so he had this nice little hot rod. So it was this beautiful like Sunday evening or some shit. We're driving across the Causeway Bridge. Longest freestanding bridge in the world over in New Orleans. And it's like maybe I'm zhuzhing it up in my mind, but like sun's going down. He drops the top and he's like, all right, kid, check this out. And just, right out the gate, battery, like right out the gate. So Master of Puppets is one of the fucking greatest albums ever. And it's really tied for Justice it's tied. The problem is Justice has like the worst audio engineering ever. Like Saint Anger was somehow better than that. But anyway, it's my mind was like, what is happening? Like, dude, I was so just activated. It just like lit me up. And for the first time, I was so moved by the music. I became, I wanted to learn about the people who made it. And so I looked into like, their origin story, and it was the first time I looked and watched a documentary on an artist. And then that got me into the process of, got into Metallica. So eventually I go back and I notice a major difference in the guitar playing with the first 2 albums and and all the other ones. I'm like, why? I mean, it's different. I don't really like it as much. I am more of a Kirk Hammett person. But it was interesting to kind of learn how modern metal was kind of coming from like one of 2 factions. You were either like coming from like this more Metallica centric, a little bit more 4 on the floor accessibility, or a lot of your more technical groups kind of followed Dave Mustaine's footsteps because he kind of took it in a totally different direction. And so then I don't know, I went down this rabbit hole for years of just learning about music, the culture behind it, and kind of just everything happening. And, around that time, the Carter 3 came out, and that was a huge album for me. Both the Carter 3 and the Carter 4 came out. And then, eventually in my later high school years, going back into Wayne's like, mixtape era, I'd probably say Wayne was like my first rapper for sure. But I just became obsessed with music. I really became obsessed with music. And then when part of that obsession, I was also into video games at the time. So I very quickly was like, I want to get Guitar Hero. So I rented it from Blockbuster and played it so I played it so well that I ended up getting it for Christmas like a couple months later, because I just kept re-renting it. Like every week we all got to rent one thing, and that was the thing that I rented, and I just kept getting it again and again, and my mom was like, okay, let's just fucking get it for you. And then I so quickly, like, I want to say within like 5 or 6 months, like I'm like a kid, and I get kind of to that expert level where I'm just like shredding through all these songs. And my dad's like, have you ever considered playing real guitar? I'm like, I mean, I guess. And I went and got a guitar from a pawn shop, little like $60 or whatever, and that activated me even more. Like it just never stopped. What happened? So I just kept playing guitar. I would try to get around into bands. I definitely had some shortcomings in the sense of I never learned songs all the way through. I loved kind of improvising and kind of doing my own version of it. And it was tough to find people to play with, and kind of back to what I was saying, the people surrounding me. Call it, a myriad or whatever it is. But I definitely let the blame of not having like the perfect bandmates or whatever, like I kind of just let that dream kind of fizzle out. And there's this whole, I call it the dark ages, but it was basically about a decade of my life where I hit puberty and kind of was heavily socialized in a particular way, and it made me kind of shut down. And part of that, of like kind of trimming away like my hair and like physically kind of like hiding parts of myself, I kind of just lost passion for music. Let me rephrase. I lost passion for like wanting to be a musician. I still loved music. And so what's interesting is that energy kind of moved into me just having a ton of opinions on music. Where really it was with anything I would say would be like in parentheses, and I could do this so much better. And ironically now I feel like that's probably farther from the truth. And like I have so much, I think, humility for the art of making music now that I've actually gotten myself to do it. Excuse me. So dark ages went by, 2020 hit, and I had this mega identity crisis, barring a almost suicide attempt, and it kind of reactivated me, and it clicked. I think it took things getting that extreme for me to really just like say, okay, fine, like with the most reluctance you could possibly imagine. I just kind of accepted that, like, yeah, I'm gonna have to be, whatever rejection I was running from, society, from, men, from my father, from whatever, it kind of was just like, okay, well, if it really is that bad that we're willing to, then like, let's just do the rejection thing. Because what if that's the only bad thing that happens? Like, what if everything else is actually so great? And I guess that's more me saying that about myself now. I had maybe like a little glimmer of light of this more like sense and certainty that I feel about things. But it was this really profound experience where I was like, damn, this was my whole life. This was my calling. And I knew that. And because I let fear take the wheel, I misdirected that energy and kind of dug myself into a hole, and I got to climb out. So I don't know how much. So I bought a laptop, a Focusrite, and a mic on a credit card, and just fucking got it. And I was like, I'm like literally do or die. I'm just going to make music. I apparently, I still have the unemployment money. I still have a little time, and I just started making stuff. And I want to say I made like maybe 15 shitty little demos in GarageBand, and they all just kept kind of leaning more and more hip hop. But for a while I was like, I'm not going to, I don't want people, which is basically like, I don't want people to laugh at me. Cause I had seen all the, the white kids rapping in my high school getting laughed at. And then eventually one of my friends, you know, I had said multiple times, like, oh, I was just working on music, or this, or that. And I think I had said that enough times where in this group, my friend was like, okay, I've heard you say this phrase, work on music. I've never heard you anything you've ever made. Like, what the fuck? Like, what do you like? I've never heard like very recently. You just started saying this all the time. Like, show me, like, or shut the fuck up. And this was obviously said in a very friendly way. So I was like, okay, nobody laugh at me, and I play it, and they're like, yo, you made this? I'm like, yeah. They're like, this is really good. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah. It was actually. They were all like, we were ready to laugh at you. Like, we were so ready to laugh at you, but I could tell that they were genuinely, and that was this weird little moment where I was like, are y'all for real? Because I think that's something that I'd always wanted since a kid, being in love with music and getting into playing was, you know, that rock star situation. But again, I let fear and I let, you know, stories kind of take over. So it was that little moment of encouragement mixed with, I guess, kind of the manic momentum of deciding not to kill myself, that I carried into this little one foot in front of the other thing that has happened for the last 5 years.
Let me ask you, in that moment, what was the feeling like for you when you got a different reaction than you were expecting from people that you thought would feed the fear you had of exposing yourself musically to others? How did that feel?
It was shocking because my nervous system was preparing for something that I had imagined and lived and relived thousands of times before I ever put myself in that situation. And so naturally my whole body is telling myself and the universe, like, people will laugh at you. Versus that was a situation where I was like, I guess the thought that occurred to me was something along the lines of, damn, all of that fear and doubt that I know is holding me back artistically. And even in this super rough little piece of shit, they look at it and they're like, that could be something, dude. The fact that they all said that, like, unanimously, with the most genuine energy. And to this day, those people are some of the only people that I'm still, like, regularly in contact with from my old life. And those people were like, it was a weird little moment of encouragement where, like, I almost didn't believe them. And then I sat with it and I carried it into the next day when I made another song. And I felt like I had more fun doing it because I was like, okay, well, if nobody's gonna laugh at me, or at least not right now, at least if my friends aren't gonna laugh at me, because, like, if strangers on the internet, you know, whatever, I don't even know if I'll put it on the internet, but they were all like, you should upload this. I'm like, upload this? What the fuck? Nah, dude, I'm trying to do this instead of get high all the time, because the problem is I'm so dissatisfied with life, I'm just getting high. When what I used to do as a kid, when I had emotions and I wanted to sit and think and process, is even if I wasn't conscious of what I was playing, I would just noodle on the guitar and just think about whatever I was thinking about and just. And meanwhile, I'm like panicking about, like, the fact that I know I'm going to get grounded because I did this thing, or I, you know, fucking stole $20 from my mom, or, you know, whatever the fuck I was doing as a kid. And that's how I used to do it. So basically the moment that happened for me that kind of sparked, it was a similar moment that kept repeating over and over again, where I felt both like this life flashing before my eyes moment where I, like, remembered my whole, like, my body remembers everything about guitar and how much music means to me. Because I was also on psychedelics at this point, at the point in question. And so I think there was something also there about, like, literally when I touched the guitar, it was like the guitar sent a little pulse through my body, and I remembered, like, that whole story about the Metallica CD, like, that whole thing of me learning guitar and like high school talent show, like, all those things. And then I was like, holy fucking shit, I really let that thing slip away. And so again, I make the song, a similar thing happens where I hear them say like, you should upload this. I'm like, oh shit, because that's really what I want to do. And I know that, and maybe they know that, or maybe, I don't know. It felt really weird to hear that validated because I was like, but I don't get what I want. You know, I don't get to have that. So it was definitely a kind of intense moment, and it is tough, like accepting and receiving that type of love and success, even to this day. Like, you know, like when I'm on stage, when I go on tour, it is sometimes really overwhelming because again, my nervous system and my body and my, you know, my mental legacy is fear, failure, and, you know, condescension, you know, kind of all that shit.
You know, I think you're going to have it's kind of a multiple response to the next thing I'm thinking about here. Because I usually want to know if there's like, is there one individual, right? Because we come in contact with tons of people, and we need the village of the people who come and go through the sliding doors of our lives to help, you know, get us to where we want to go or give us that bit of inspiration or whatever. I'm curious, and I have a feeling it may be more than one person, but is there an individual who's had the greatest impact on your musical career? Like that when they touched you in a way, you took whatever it is they gave you, and that stays with you and helps guide you and keeps your momentum going. Like, do you have someone like that in your life? Was it sounds like it could be a bunch of people, but like the thing that keeps you going, right? That person who made that impact.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of different people. One of whom I'm actually no longer really friends with anymore, and it's a very painful thing that I'm still dealing with. Kind of, you know, some betrayal and, you know, recognizing that there was a lot of emotional abuse the whole time going on, but it was also very symbiotic in that sense, and I wasn't the best friend either. But I will definitely. There's definitely a couple different people. One of them, my former roommate, Rain Stern. She was a very talented multi-instrumentalist, solo artist, producer. I got to learn kind of firsthand from watching her do her own thing and having her, you know, get involved in my projects. I learned a whole new angle of thinking about things. And between her and a lot of the people that she worked with, I got to really get my first taste in like immersive professional music making when it comes to a lot of the technical aspects, a lot of, you know, things that you normally learn in songwriting workshops, and, you know, the things that people pick up at Berkeley, or, you know, whatever the fuck that, you know, shout out Range, she knows a whole ton of shit. And so I've gotten to benefit substantially from, you know, her experience, and, you know, in many ways she was a mentor to me, and she makes some great music, so worth checking out. And then I would say another person would be my ex-girlfriend, still friend, Brenda, Dr. Brenda. She was somebody that she was one of those first people before we were dating, when, you know, she was one of those people who was like, dude, this is pretty good. I would totally listen to this. And was just like, you know, one of my rocks. She was just always there. I'd say another person, obviously, I think an obvious person that doesn't even go on the list because it's so obvious, is my current girlfriend, Sarah. She is, you know, very, I guess, the emotional sanctuary that we've been able to make our beautiful home has been really artistically moving for me, and has really, you know, when shit feels safe and all the weird shit can start bubbling up and there's a microphone there to capture it all, you know, and Sarah has a huge role in why I feel the way I feel in this home and why it feels like a home. I would say lastly, I'll say one name, but my whole people, like, they all know who, they all know what's what. I was saying my boy Shno Xavier, Shno Xavier. An incredible hip hop artist, incredible performer, somebody who has really, both demonstrated, has studied and demonstrated like some of the best physical performances that like exist currently in hip hop. Like, that man gets on stage and does some crazy shit and does not have the recognition that he deserves. And really none of us do, but Shno is a ride or die. That dude, if he's free, he'll be there for you. And he, for better or worse, a lot of the tours I've done, or I say that, the 3 that I have done, the most draining and tough thing has been, I guess, kind of the emotional management of the various artists and personalities that are on tour. And thankfully nobody's been like too much of a drama queen, but it is incredible that I've never had to worry about Shno. And all 3 times he's been there, like, I feel more capable, and I feel like the team can do more just if he's in the room. So he's just one of those guys. I'd say those are my big 3 right off the bat.
Nice. Now, you've got some great people around you. You've had some people who have really made monumental impact. And you've got, just in the 5 years, I mean, I take a listen before I do these.
Sorry to cut you off. I do have one more that I want to put out, because a big part of what I have grown artistically in, especially over 2025, has been my visual game has gone through the roof. And I have learned so much by working with my friend Graham Buhan. Buyan, I'm sorry, there's an H in there that always like stumbles me up. But he's an incredible director, cinematographer that's based in LA, and he's done a lot of my recent visuals. He did the God Image video, the Hunter Schaefer, the Blood on My Hands. Like, he did Run. He is that motherfucker, and I've learned a lot about the camera arts from him. So sorry, you can continue with the next one.
No. Like I said, you're surrounded by really great people. You've got in 5 years, you've got a pretty good catalog going. Right, your output is pretty high. Where do you find your inspiration for the messages that you put into your music? What are the, where are the places that you go or that find you that tick off that I need to express this?
Yeah. And I'm not the proudest to talk about this, and maybe that's just because I feel differently about it now. But to be honest, I've had a really bad scrolling habit. And I think a lot of, at least it just depends on what songs we're talking about. But if we're talking about the big heavy hitters, and what people consider, my signature thing is political anger. And that comes from frying my brain on TikTok. And I am a very intelligent person that I think I can step away from that and, create, a song and tie it into stuff that is a little bit more timeless. But ultimately, a lot of what I've talked about lately has been very, contemporary and specific. And now what I find, and this is what has kind of, I don't want to say like reinvigorated, but yeah, there was a moment where, like, especially post Charlie Kirk's shooting and the whole situation that happened with the MAGA Twitter blow up and all that stuff, I did have a bit of a weird moment of me wondering if everything I had been doing is low vibrational in this, like at its, like, regardless of my intent, is the impact of my music low vibrational. And if so, then that must mean that I am not being intentional enough with what I put out there, because that is not my intended impact. But like in that moment, I just watched, and I don't like really claim like responsibility for this or something, but it just happened all at the same time, and it felt fucking weird. Because nobody fucking talked to me about it. And I felt like everybody was just hanging out amongst themselves, but Kurt got kirked. And the next day, my Start a Fire verse, that's like first things first, free Gaza. And it is just pure, the Neighborhood Kids give me 32 fucking bars on that song. And I couldn't even really take 4 to talk about unity or, growth, saving ourselves. It was just boom, 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 boom. And I was really high on my own supply at that point. And that was, I remember when I wrote that, I was amped up I just left the gym. I had a lot of momentum that day. So I was feeling really great about myself. And I'm sure had plenty of resentment and very biased political opinions that I wanted to just fire off and, talk my shit. And then I played right into their fucking hand. And I felt like an idiot, to be completely honest. And what happened since then, when it comes to inspiration, is I started doing this book that I'm sure you've heard about called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It is an incredible, intensive, very spiritual, artistic creativity workshop. And I actually haven't even really gotten into like the meat of the program in terms of just like actually going week by week. I've kind of just been stuck on the one thing that I really fucking like about it so far is the morning pages. So basically it has two main pillars of like daily is every single day. Like the first thing you do is you write 3 full pages, stream of consciousness. They call it brain drain, where it's just like whatever you're going to be thinking about, just get it onto the page. And I was so resistant to that because I hate homework because I'm a rebellious little kid and I hate it. But I was like, you know what? I was in that moment and I felt really like, well, something I'm doing is not working, because it's not the fact, because I can flow, I can rhyme, I can convey ideas, and I can do it with style, and I know how to market myself. Like obviously, like all of these things are happening, and I can do it in a way where millions of people see it. So in the context of me being frustrated about still having to drive Lyft, still having to, do whatever and feel like I'm kind of clawing my way forward, I'm kind of like to the world, like what fucking gives? Like what else? What else do you want from me? Because I feel like there's a bunch of other assholes who are making ingenuine music, not even at my level. And it appears to me, I don't know these people in real life, but it appears to me that they're having, a higher quality of life. So what happened is I started really, I guess in that desperation, was like, I need to figure something out, because I'm not happy with where my inspiration comes from. I kind of feel like Zuko from Avatar: Last Airbender, relying on anger and hate to like push that out. And I'm like, no wonder I get frustrated when my more emotional and like introspective songs don't pop off the way I want to. It's because that's not an authentic source for me. At the time, I'm like, that's not an authentic source for me.
You were leading me down this path, and I was going to ask you, I mean, do you feel that overflow of mediated input short-circuited your authenticity?
I think it has. I don't think it is in any way like totally hid it from the public. I think what most people see in me is that potential. And I think what the reason millions come and millions don't stay, and like only tens of thousands do currently, is because those tens of thousands happen to, either already kind of be I don't want to call them the low-hanging fruit, because they are, if anything, the opposite. They are the foundation that I stand on. But in the context of how much work on myself do I have to do for the music to be able to reach across the aisle? Because my goal is to reach across the aisle and touch people who aren't transgender or have any proximity to queerness, and be able to see and for them to be able to see their reflection in me, and have that change even one thing about themselves. That is kind of more my goal, is like, how do I maybe it's like a grudge against always feeling like an outsider or something, but it's like, you know what? Like, I am, like, this is who I am, and this is what I, I always will be that, and I can accept that I'll never be, and maybe I kind of like that I'll never be part of the in group. But I do have like this almost like grudge where I'm just like, y'all are gonna fucking acknowledge me and what I can do, though. You don't have to invite me to the parties, and we don't have to be friends. But y'all got me fucked up if y'all are gonna walk around like I am lesser than. I can be different. And I guess maybe that, actually, holy shit, that's kind of a light bulb moment. I'm gonna write that down. So to kind of put a cap on this, where my inspiration is now coming from, because I am now 50 verses, which used to be something I'd write over the course of a year. I've done in 2 months. I'm 50 verses in. So many of them are actually songs. Like, I am, every morning, my body gets up around like 5:30. It's just, I don't know what it is, cortisol probably. And I stopped fighting it, and now I just get up, I grab this notebook, and I listen. I for once in my life, I just stop trying to speak, and I listen. And what has been coming up is fucking incredible. And whatever the inspiration, I don't know what to call it, but I'm trying to call it source. I am doing my best to no longer have anything but myself be the source of inspiration. So, I think there will be times where I'll be, activated off something I see on the internet, or I'm reactionary in some way. I don't know how, if, or when that will continue to be an acceptable thing to consider for my art. So yeah, that's, it's interesting that it's happening at the 5-year mark, because I'm at this point where I'm both so grateful and like amazed at what's happened, but there's also these parts where I'm like infuriated, because I still feel like I'm not being heard, and it's because I'm not letting myself speak. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean,
like, I'm trying to say what people want to hear based on what I see on the internet. Because my woke's different than your woke, that's different than whoever's woke. Like, everybody, like, we have our own thing. We have our own truth. And even amongst my people, I have a deep fear of giving them my truth because of disagreement. I have a song coming out later this year called Wrong. And the hook is, can I be wrong around you? And
I like that. I really like that.
It is a really cool song.
And I want to kind of dovetail onto that a little bit. I look at when someone finds a new artist, someone they haven't heard before. And we used to live in the world where, back in the days of an album, it had a single or two, right? Now we live in a day and age where, you make a creative choice every month as a single. You may do an EP. You could do an album. The combinations are endless, but you end up with this body of work that can be found either intentionally or accidentally. To me, and I'm always curious from your catalog of your music, if it was a smorgasbord to dine upon, but I had to have the appetizer for me to want the main course, are there what are the 2 or 3 songs that you feel really define your sound and your style, that if I hear those 2 or 3 songs, the hook is in my ear and I've got to devour the rest of your catalog?
I would say Run, Hunter Schaefer, and Should I Stay?
And why those 3?
Run is an amazing just intro song. It's the intro to my project Eat the Rich, the vinyl of which is right back there. it is a song about unity. It's also, and that is one thing I really, really love about it. And it's kind of the subtext of it is unity, because the chorus "motherfuckers better run" and then "run" is like chanted a million times, is both like us, the people, yelling at the oligarchy, like y'all better like run for your fucking lives, but then it's also like a call to action of like, y'all, let's go, like don't walk, run to your fucking, your own salvation. It's a song that I just body from front to back. There's a friend who no longer releases music, that did the intro, and actually had quit music entirely by the time it was time for me to release. And he was just like, have it. I'm like, you can't keep a distro account open and I could send you splits on it? Really? I can't just send you a little bit? He's like, I'm done. I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay. And it's the irony is a lot of people think it's my verse anyway, because like I guess our voices sound similar enough. I think it's very obviously a different person, but I really, really like that verse. That was something where I felt when I wrote it, I felt like I never at any point in the song deviated from the topic. I didn't, I made sure that I stayed on topic and that I was able to convey a specific message, and I didn't, I was able to still experiment with flows and have fun with it. But I didn't let the fun take me off the reservation and start doing stuff because, the rapper is one part of the songwriting process, but me as a producer, as a songwriter, there's times where I'm just like, hey, me speaking to my pen, I'm like, hey, I know you can do this, and I know it's really fucking cool, and I know only other rappers will give a fuck that you can do this. And remember that we're making a song for a lot of people. So like, let's think about, and this is something that I learned from Rainstern, what does the song need? Not what do you want to, like, not what your ego wants in the song. And so Run was one of, I think honestly, maybe that's the connection. That was shortly after her and I had become roommates. And that was a situation where I had heard her talk about that with both her, with other people's music and with her own. And I had thought about it. I'm like, well, damn, sometimes I really do just go off on like little tangents, and I do it because it rhymes. And the fear in me is like, okay, we'll use that line because you probably can't come up with a better one and all that sort of stuff. So finding these little bitty like grits of sand in the gears has I think been ultimately, it was really fun to just like get the mud off as like the whole machine woke up, being me. But now that I've done enough of this and the doubt of like who I am and what I do has gone away, it's been really cool to get into the gears. And I'm going to go back on topic of the second one, Hunter Schaefer. Hunter Schaefer is, it will show you that I am a polarizing artist. And if you don't fuck with that song, you probably won't fuck with the rest of my stuff. In the sense that I'm going to stand on and talk about in detail with no jargon, gender ideology, with a pretty clear implied question of, is there a proper way to be a person in the way that I physically present to the world, given all this context of what it costs to look a certain way, and the widely understood idea of most people aren't, 10 out of 10 attractive and all that, this and this and that, asking this question of like, okay, what happens to the rest of us that don't look like her or don't act a certain way? Like the question that's, which I like, in the big three appetizers, it's something that you need to know that I'm an intense artist, and it's not just kind of vague socialism, government bad. I have like deep emotional ties and a personal reason for wanting, queer politics to be out of American politics, because it's heightening the situations where people are going to just fucking kill you. And the danger is the better you look, to speak in kind of like heteronormative terms, the better you look, the more danger you're in. Because you get clocked and you break a man's brain, he will and then do community service or whatever the fuck. Like, and so I would definitely say, and then also just sonically, as like the rapping on it, like it is, I hit some crazy flows. It's impressive. So as long as the reason I put it in there is as long as you're not turned off from the topic, you will be thoroughly impressed with my ability to convey that topic, as long as you're not disgusted by like the conversation around trans people. The third one, Should I Stay, is also kind of a conversation about that. But there's a lot of different elevations you could take it to, but it is this question of sacrifice versus self-preservation, and this idea, and it is of the three, it is a very chill, kind of laid back jazzy song. And it is very introspective, and it asks this question, should I stay or should I go? If I'm such a punk, why this clashing in my soul? And if I chose to run, could I still live with myself? If I stood my ground, would it not matter at all? And that's kind of the central question of the whole song. I wrote it the morning after Trump got elected, and a friend had offered their place in Europe for me to, they said, hey, if any emergency happens, you can $400 hop on a cheap flight and like we'll figure it out. And for the first time ever, especially being like on the internet, like, oh, I'm big bad damage, I really sat with myself and was like, what would my life look like if I did that? Like what, like I genuinely considered it. And I really kind of want, I think it's a helpful song for anybody struggling with, you know, wanting to be expat or wanting to stay and fight, and build something better. And you could also apply it to, you know, a lot of other things. Are you trying to save someone from themselves, or should you just fucking leave? Should I stay or should I go is also like in the context of violent political commentary. Like, I also now, like, more than anything now when I hear it, I think about like, this isn't about like me leaving the country. It's like, that's what I wrote about at the time, but it was more like, should I leave this behind? This notion that I thought was so innovative and crazy of like, you know, the trans woman who is so fed up and brought, you know, to such fear for her life that she would act proactively violent. My baby mind thought that would have been like this crazy thought, like, oh my God. Turns out that was exactly what they fucking wanted. And, you know, I try to not be too hard on myself for that, but I look at it in the sense of coupling it with my dissatisfaction on a general sense of how I've been received by the masses, not necessarily by my people, because I know my people love me. It's like clicking for me more and more lately. And so Should I Stay is just one of those, you know, the sunlight in the middle of a hurricane moments where you really get a glimpse of like, damn, this artist really does want to be more and wants to do more and doesn't want to be, you know, it shows a level of, I think, depth in, you know, the listener's mind. It's one of those first real moments where you get like a mature, I don't fully know what we're doing. And I'm scared. And I don't give an answer. I always kind of, I end the song with like, what matters to you? And then there's this beautiful like minute outro of some live strings that I recorded that my friend wrote. Yeah, so it's a really beautiful song. So I'd say Run, get you hype. Hunter, to impress you. Should I Stay will make you wonder where I really go with my life.
I think that's fantastic. And now for all of us, everyone who's watching, you know where to start. And as always, there are going to be links below because you're going to go out and support Damage like you do all your artists that you really care about.
Goddamn right.
You know, we've got to talk a little bit about Dollfest. right?
Yeah.
How did that come about for you, and what are you looking forward to at the festival this year?
So Maria from Dollfest, I randomly got an email. I had actually never even heard of it. And there's just as a asterisk, there is so much about just like trans entertainment and queer entertainment culture that just I never knew the breadth of. Like I was so unaware. So that was another thing. I had this weird ego thing kind of coming into the music of like, I'm gonna be the first bitch. I did nah. But I found out about Dollfest. They hit me up. They said, hey, like this is the situation. I had nothing booked at the time. I was trying to hit a tour in the spring. And so it lined up perfectly. I'm like, let's do it. And it's up in the Bay, and I'm really excited to be back up there. I love San Francisco. It's super cool. Excuse me. Things I'm looking to the most. The reason I laughed is my brain immediately went like, kissing a bunch of cute trans girls. I was like, no, maybe. But I'm really excited to meet everybody else there. I'm excited to just like, honestly, just have some musical camaraderie with zero, and like, I mean zero, ideally. Like I'm really just with my people. It's not like I'm with a bunch of like rappers who are cool with me. I'm like, nah, these are all transsexual, medically transitioned motherfuckers. Like these are my people. These, like, in the sense of you get what I'm saying. Like sometimes there's just a small group of people that really just get you. And I think it's ridiculous to expect that like the majority of situations you're ever around, you would have to, you could be like that. But I am excited to, in a musical context, in like the networking, rah-rah of being backstage and just hanging out with people, especially in a festival context. So this will be really fun. I'm hoping that it's all good vibes there, and that I get to meet some cool, talented people and maybe have some new friendships form. And then maybe scalp a bunch of the people that are there to see me. I'll be like, hey, I'll be back May 31st at the Fake Collective, so y'all can pull up and give me the ticket money. But no, Dollfest is taking care of me, and it's just really cool to be paid a fee to go up and perform, and it's really nice. It's really nice. It feels like one of those moments where it's like like, oh shit, I'm a real artist. I didn't apply for this. I didn't sit there and like hope, I hope I get it. It was like, nah, they saw me and reached out. And I was like, yay.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things, and I've said it to some of the other guests who have been in our Dollfest coverage, is like, Maria's fearless, and she is not afraid to ask for what she wants till she gets it. And I love that. I love that for her. And I love the fact that, it puts everybody in a safe environment where you have that camaraderie, you have that ability to kind of be there, and you get one another, right? Because there is a place for everyone. And although on a large scale, we live in a world where there are people who don't feel there is a place for everyone, we do have these groups of people who do feel there is a place for everyone, and they're facilitating the ability to have that. So I love that for her, and I love that you're going to be participating in Dollfest. So everybody, there's still time. Get your tickets. And if you don't live in Oakland, get yourself transportation and get your ass out there, because we are big supporters of what they're doing. I'm hoping to be there myself to take it all in. So I love that for you, and I love that for Dollfest.
If anybody is in the California area or the surrounding area, and you're either an existing fan of me or you're so blown away by what you heard today, you're going to go join my Discord server. There is a channel in the Discord server called Get a Ride to See Damage, and this is an ongoing channel that anytime there's always like a tour season or whatever, but for events like this, anybody can go in and say, hey, I live in this area, looking for a ride to see her perform in Portland or whatever the fuck. And it is a very frequently used and successfully navigated channel where people have been able to get, we're talking 600-mile round trip cross state line situations, and we have been able to bus people in who otherwise have no way of even going to CVS. So that option always exists, and yeah, I love pulling strings and doing whatever. So
I'm going to make sure you've got to get me the links, because we're going to make sure we have all your Discord stuff down below too. I'm always fascinated because we all want something in life. We want to have an experience. There's always a brass ring out of some type in a bunch of different categories in life, right? One of the ones that I'm always fascinated with is whether you have a vision board, you set a list of goals, you have a bucket list or some sort of dream. If there was an artist or a producer or somebody that you wanted to be creative with, that you've always had that, like, if I could only work for a day with them and get an experience, who would that person be and why?
It's really tough because I'm caught between two people, and they're both different reasons, but ultimately I do feel like I have an answer. And I think it's just because we play different roles in life. But my runner-up would be Kendrick Lamar. Someone I respect on such a deep, deep level, beyond musically. Just, that man's soul is profound. And I think on a spiritual level, I think there's a part of me that feels that were we to work together, especially for an extended period of time, that something truly, I guess, groundbreaking on a more spiritual level, less a sonic level, would really come about. And I think maybe there is a artistic breakthrough that now, especially over this past couple months that I've been realigning myself, I feel that fuck how it ends up sounding. I feel like the emotional experience of working with him, if it was really like an earnest, like, let's make something great. I feel like that artistically would be like a masterpiece that I could like die happy having. I think my actual answer, all things considered, would be Tyler, the Creator. The reason being because he is in no way, shape, and form emotionally unintelligent. He is he's a very wise person, and there's a lot of principles about him that I really, really admire. When it comes to self-confidence, when it comes to accountability, when it comes to really just like doing the fucking thing. And I think, all things considered, him and I would make probably one of the greatest songs ever made. Because our energy is very similar. It is very, very, very similar. I've had a bunch of different variations of this, but I've always been like, I've always had something where I said, I have a message similar to Kendrick, but with the energy of Tyler. And, that's something that you say when you don't really know what the fuck your music sounds like. But that is kind of like the way I approached it, is like there are these elements about these two artists that I just find to be so groundbreaking and incredible. But the reason I would want to work with Tyler of anybody is his production capabilities are on a whole other level. And so I know from a sonic standpoint, whatever lyrical thing we get onto, whatever the concept is, would be musically so perfectly supported. This is not to imply that Kendrick doesn't have that ability. But if we're only picking one person, and I couldn't also, because it's like, if I can't have Kendrick and Soundwave, if I can't have Kendrick and Thundercat and Jack Anson, like if I only had Kendrick in a room with all the instruments in the world and stuff, and if that's what we're talking, like a desert island thing, I would pick Tyler. Because that is more of his forte than, I guess, necessarily any, whatever. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, as everyone who watches and hangs with us knows, you now have an assignment. Whether you're Tyler and you're watching this, or Kendrick and you're watching this, if you know them, if you know someone who knows them, if you know their dog sitter, their babysitter, maybe it's their Uber Eats person, I don't know. But if you know someone and you can connect them with Damage and vice versa, let's make dreams come true. as everyone knows that watches this, we are huge supporters of supporting artists. So down below are going to be a ton of links so you can buy Damage's music. You can buy albums and CDs. You can then also buy merch, buy tickets to shows. Music and art are not free, right? Damage was talking about, you know, when your career started, you bought a laptop and some equipment and a mic, and you got started. I really don't think you shoplifted that stuff. So, you know, you've got to support your artists, and we want you to really invest in them because it's so important and it's so challenging to you know, make the money that the music industry used to have to promote and support artists. So please go down to the links below, support Damage. Now, with that, one of the things, and I think this is going to be interesting, given the earliest part of our conversation, some of the original music that kind of turned you on to being having music in your life. When you're not making your own music, when, like, you know, you go to the gym or you go out on a stroll or you're just relaxing, who are a couple of artists that if we're just sitting here shooting the shit and you're like, Scott, I got a couple people I've been listening to lately on heavy rotation. I absolutely love them. You got to try them out.
Yeah.
You may just dig them. Who are a couple?
So, I mean, she's huge, but Kali Uchis. I love Kali Uchis so much. And kind of in that, I've been listening to a lot of Kaytranada, both very established artists. But if you're not into, if you haven't been put onto them, I would highly recommend Kaytranada, 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 and then Kali Uchis, Kaliuchis. Incredible, and this is much more in the chill, vibey, world. I would say in the rap world, I am very, very inspired by Chris Patrick right now. Very, very inspired by him, and just his. It's the rawness for him. It's there's just something about him. I don't know what it is, because I'm not gonna act here. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I've never heard somebody do X, Y, and Z before. But again, it is about the way it's presented. It's about the combination. It's about, like, is that coming directly from the soul? And what I love about him is everything's coming from the soul. I would say shout out Perry Mason, another person who is just doing shit straight out the soul. Also, a little group out of Miami that I think is going to do a show with me in Brooklyn, possibly Chicago and Seattle. We're still figuring that out. But they're called Barely Legal. They're a little trio, and they are fire. They have a bunch of different little EPs, and they have such a cool sound. I love just like the group, what fucking Brockhampton did, bringing back like, the group kind of vibe. And like now, like a ton of people are thankfully not trying to mimic it. But like you have groups like What More who are blowing up right now, and they're fire. Barely Legal, I feel like, is a little bit more like rage hip hop. Like it's less suburban indie compared to What More, but it's that kind of boy band Brockhampton vibe. If you fuck with that, I highly recommend Barely Legal. Also big into Mavi, big into Red Veil. Shout out Red Veil. New album is incredible. And why is there one more person on the tip of my tongue? There's one more person on the tip of my tongue. Marco.
Give me one more.
Marco Plus.
All right. Well, you know what? The one thing I love about this is now I have some people to start listening to, because I always learn about new artists from artists that I talk with, and I think that's one of the beauties of sharing in art and music, is that we can give it to one another. It's a gift. Yeah. So I'm going to check them out. Everybody watching, you need to go check them out. And you need to support Damage. You need to also support Dollfest. Get those tickets. Get your way out there. I'm going to make sure that Discord link is down below in case you need a ride. And I'm hoping to be out there as well. But here's what happened. If I don't make it to Dollfest, the next time you have an album coming out, we're going to do this again. And we're going to pick another bunch of topics. This is the beginning of the conversation, not the end.
I have another album coming. It's a little secret. I'm kind of just going to put it out there. But in April, I have a project called Kill the Radio.
All right.
Me and an artist named Amber Ryan. We're gonna do a big tour with it, and it's really cool. Bunch of live instruments, almost not a lot of digital elements. It's gonna be very cool.
I think we're gonna be talking again real soon. We're gonna be hanging again sooner than later, for sure. Everybody, we've covered a lot of ground today, and we've gotten to know eras, damage, eras, damage. Whichever one you like, you're gonna love her music. So let's go out and support her and support the other artists that you see here on the Hang. And one more time, make it to Dollfest. Do your best. So thank you so much for spending time with me. This has been a fabulous conversation. I really appreciate you. And I'm thrilled for what's going on in your world right now for you. And that you've kind of refound yourself and you've got your direction. I love that for you. So thank you so much for joining me. And everybody else, look, I've said it once, I've said it a dozen times. Go out and find a way to make sure that you love yourself, you value yourself, you care about yourself, and then do the same for others. We need more of that now than ever if we're just going to survive as human creatures. It's so important. So please do that for me. Do it for yourself. Do it for the betterment of the world. And then come back and hang with us again. So one last time, Damage, thanks so much for joining me. Everybody, till next time. It's been great.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Cool.
Let's see.